You try on the recording?
I, Lucia Zambetti, hereby request Josh Ovalle for collaboration with the Internet is Dead podcast. Please, Josh, be a guest on the podcast. We miss you.
How are
Wait, thanks
you?
for joining us, even though you have a midterm. I have Tylenol on my hands right now that I'm like meaning to swallow. Yeah.
Of course, I literally just finished my Intro to Buddhism midterm.
Oh,
Oh, what a treat.
I know, and now like after this, I have my Intro to Logic midterm. So,
Mm.
what
Do you
about you
think you
guys?
did well?
No.
Okay,
oh.
awesome.
It's okay. I think logic I'll do fine, but Intro to Buddhism, it's a lot more like memorization than I thought. Like I thought it would be like some SOTC type shit where I'm like,
Oh,
Oh my
it's
God.
a SOTC exam.
yeah,
They give you a SOTC exam.
for the SOTC exam.
Wait, you
Yeah,
go to Georgetown
Yeah.
and you're
that's so
studying
cool.
philosophy?
hmm
We found that when we were like researching, and that's really cool. I'm like so curious how you like got into that or like why you wanted to study philosophy.
I just like took this class in like my last semester of high school because I didn't have enough credits and my like dean or whatever was like, just take this one. Like and I go and it's like this philosophy class with this like old British guy who was like so sweet. I forget his name. And like after the first class we had kind of just talked about like the ideas of like falsifiability and how like, even science like isn't based in like this like everlasting truth. Like even
Mhm.
science is changing all the time and like that like in like contradiction to religion and whatever. And I just like left the class feeling so like nauseous. Like I was like, oh my God, like what is going on? And I was like, I'm totally gonna study philosophy because like I love just like I don't know, I feel like till then I like had no idea that the world you can like challenge the world's like
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Aw.
no, that's so cool. Because I'm like very into spirituality, just like as a baseline. I feel like it like a combination of like everything. And I think it's cool that I think it's more normalized now for young people to get into that stuff.
Totally, yeah. Like I feel like there's been such a, especially recently, just like I feel like we've kind of gone through like ups and downs of like as a generation, like rejecting religion and being like, wait, this
Mhm.
is like based in so many like, like exclusionary aspects of just like, oh, this person belongs, this person doesn't belong. Like,
Mm.
like I'm a good person for treating whatever XYZ. And like I feel like as a generation we've been like, wait, no, like first no, and now like if there is a God, like that's not what he's about or she or they're about. Like
Mm.
Yeah.
I think it's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's funny that you like mentioned Satsi too, because I feel like the internet's just played such a big role in that and like
Yeah.
all of these like influencers coming up who do talk about spirituality in this very normalized way.
I was talking to someone in the car, like an Uber driver, and he was asking me because like he was talking about the internet and like the generational difference and stuff. And it was just an interesting conversation because he was asking me what I felt like was the main difference, like generationally, for like Gen Z. And as like someone who's like on the internet, and I feel like it is like a more normalized thing, and I think it goes hand in hand with spirituality that we see things with like a lot more nuance. I feel like that's the main difference I see with just like young people now, which is really awesome.
Yeah, totally.
Anyways,
Like
I'm really curious about how you like, because I used to follow you on TikTok also when I was younger in like 2020. I think you're one of the few like music girlies who like came out of TikTok at that time, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Like maybe I'm just like biased because it's like my personal experience, but I feel like I just know who you are. I know who like a few other people are, but there aren't a lot of people who really like made like identities out of that space, especially following 2020, because I feel like the whole like landscape totally shifted. But I'm curious if you're able to just describe the state of the internet back then and what it felt like to enter that space. And if you like relate to what I just said at all.
Yeah. Totally. I agree. I feel like there was like this prime time in like 2018, 2020 when like um kind of like right before COVID and the pandemic and things like that where like TikTok had just been blowing up and there's been so many like, like I guess like through musically like artists like Billie Eilish like those types of platforms that are so centered around like music and sound and like sound retination and things like that, and like the importance of like having hooks in songs, like, like that was just such a like new environment where
Mhm.
we've never really had that before. I feel like there's been like, I don't really know of the other ways that I've like heard music before that other than like the radio, and like that's like I would just like listen to the radio in my babysitter's car.
Mhm.
Like even like at my house we wouldn't really listen to anything besides the same like four albums. And like so I feel like, yeah, like it was definitely a time where there was a lot of chance. Like there's a lot of chance with like videos blowing up out of nowhere, and everything was just kind of like a blank slate for creatives of like, oh, I'm just gonna put myself out there.
Mm.
My mindset during then like was I already had a bit of a platform like on my TikTok before I started promoting my music. I knew like at the point when I was like, oh, I kind of have people who are like, OMG, like I love you, like OMG, like recreating my videos, whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the time to start promoting my music. Like
Mhm.
really awesome.
Yeah.
So, I think now it's so much harder because literally everyone's doing that, and they're like, and companies are hiring people to like do that for their companies and things like that.
Because you had kind of a following from like Pinterest and just like your TikToks blowing up and stuff and being on the internet since you were like 14 or something, you said. So just like your background on the internet.
So very early on, I feel like my parents weren't too strict about like being on electronics and things like that, except we weren't ever allowed to have like an Xbox or a Wii. So I played like Minecraft, I played like
Mm.
Clubkins, Club Penguin, like all of these things. And
OG social media, Loki.
yes, actually
Yeah.
Mhm.
like what's it called? Movie Star
Oh
Planet.
my God, I
Oh my
loved,
God.
yeah.
I had to go on to like say hi to my boyfriend every day, like obviously. And so like I feel like being social on like online was something that was pretty easy for me. And like, my sister's like 3.5 years older than me, and she had gotten like an Instagram and like a Kick and like all these like Ask FM and things like that. And I was like, okay, like my parents were like, you're not allowed to. And I was like, I'm gonna do it anyways. So I started like a little Instagram called Nutella Pie, and I like
Oh my
went under
God.
the alias like Lucia Malik because I was obsessed with
Oh my
Slade.
Oh my
God.
God, help me.
That's
No, but
awesome.
that's so like definitive of the state of Instagram at that time because I know exactly what you like the Nutella username. Like,
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah. I
I
can
think
like
it's like
picture it.
yeah, like it's literally I think it's still up, and like the profile picture is obviously just like a Nutella jar. Like but yeah, I feel like so early on I was like so ready to like be social, and like at that point social media had only been like I'd only really wanted to follow like the things that I was interested in, like video games and like One Direction and 5 Seconds of Summer, and like and then I wanted to follow like my friends or my family. Like I wasn't really interested in like interacting with people yet. And then once I started to kind of like get into like the 5 Seconds of Summer fandoms, like
Oh my God.
that's when I started to understand like platforms and things like that. Like I have like a bit of like a traumatizing story, but I was like kind of like online friends with someone who had a 5 Seconds of Summer like platform, and that's kind of when I started understanding this like okay, like there's like a relationship between like getting likes and like popularity and
Mm,
like the photos that you share and like social media. And that's when it all kind of like came together for me.
mm. Wait, what was your traumatizing story? If you don't have
Oh,
to share if you don't want to,
Yeah.
no,
but
I will. I just don't know if you guys want to share this on your like podcast, but it just like I had become friends with this girl who had like a 5 Seconds of Summer fan account, and I was like, oh, love them, like whatever. And she posts this thing on her story, and she was like, or not her story because they didn't have stories at the time. I feel like she just like posted it, and she was like, oh, can someone take over the account? Like I'm going through a really hard time. And I was like, yeah, like I'll take over it, like love you, girl. And then she just like no warning sent me like photos of like open cut wounds, and
Oh my God.
I was like 12 or 13, and I was
yeah.
like holy fuck, like that's
No, that
insane.
I feel like it was so normalized back
It
then
was
though, because I
so
had like
common.
such similar experiences at that age of like having to talk like being 12 and like talking your internet friends out of suicide. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
and even just like the thing of, because I remember when people would say that, they'd be like, I'm going through a really hard time right now. Like, I'm going to take a break from this account. And then they would like give
yeah.
it over to somebody else.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, oh my God. And I remember there'd be like hashtags trending for like different fans in the fandom who like were, yeah, like gonna kill themselves or
Kill
something. It was like
themselves.
crazy. It was
Like, please don't
insane.
kill hashtag like don't
Yeah,
kill yourself and then their name
literally.
Totally.
like
It was insane.
Yeah, no, it's insane. And I feel like that's like right. That was like kind of like the Tumblr like kind of seeped into Instagram a little bit. And it's like,
Hmm.
you start like making friends with these people that are like, I don't know, it's hard. I feel like in like a good way, I was young enough that I wasn't really so aware of like, I don't even think I was aware of mental illness until like
hmm.
I had interacted with these people. And even after then, I feel like I didn't even know what that was. A lighter note.
Yeah, like on a lighter note. But yeah, kind of on the same thing of like, so you had a following and then
Well, where did
um
you like shift kind of from being a fan account to then like posting on TikTok and stuff?
yeah.
Oh yeah. So I think at that point I had like I kind of like I always had an Instagram, but I think at some point in like middle school I had shifted it to like I started a new account and stopped using Nutella pie. Especially growing up in New York, like there was so many like bat mitzvahs and bar mitzvahs and like parties and like that stuff was starting to happen in like sixth and seventh grade. And so like you'd like follow people from your school, you'd follow people from like other schools, and like that's like when it started becoming more of like a social Instagram. And then when I started like clocking what was going on with like really cool, like other like older kids in New York, like posting like artsy aesthetic photos, like I was like,
Hmm.
okay, I want to do that too. Like,
Hmm.
yeah.
Wait, sorry. And then what were you gonna say, Samira? I just wanted to like get that little like that
Yeah,
understanding
no,
of like where it came in.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say something, but then I actually just remembered something else I wanted to mention before I forgot, because you mentioned Pinterest earlier, and I was gonna say that it's, yeah, I like remember seeing your pictures like on Pinterest like back in the day, and that's like a really crazy thing. The idea of like seeing people on Pinterest is so funny to me because I feel like I just remember so vividly being like 12 years old and seeing all these girls on Pinterest giving like fashion inspo or like under aesthetic tags and stuff. And I feel like it's such a interesting like parasocial dynamic where it's also like, okay, you're looking at this girl on Pinterest and she doesn't seem real. Like it's almost like in the same way you would look at like a
Yeah.
model walking a runway and you're like,
Hmm.
this person is not real. And yeah, I'm like really interested to know just like what it's like being on the other side of that, I feel like.
Yeah, it's like I honestly feel like it hasn't felt like that to me just because I don't want it to feel that way, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Hmm.
Like seeing people and being like, "Oh my God, like wait, this is so like not real. Like this is so like in its own different realm." And like I have this friend named Paris who's a model and she has like pink hair. And like she's literally every single time one of my friends will open Pinterest, she's there. And every single time my reaction is, "Oh my God, that's Paris." Like it's like never like it's never come to me like yeah, like I feel like I haven't even like accepted that because it's like I don't even know
Yeah.
what it feels like.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like a hard thing to like fathom because also from your end, it's like you're just posting a picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So it's like
exactly.
interesting.
And I feel like there's definitely like there's obviously like intent in my photos, and when I like prioritized like more like of my influencer wave, like I was more like on purpose taking these like aesthetic photos to like make it on Pinterest, get a lot of likes on Instagram and things like that.
Also crazy to think about like how young you were at the time that those photos were probably on Pinterest.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I feel like there were so many like 14, 15-year-old girls who just were like on Pinterest as this aesthetic kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's also like gross thinking about that now.
Yeah.
Reminds me of just like the way that girls idolize each other in school. Like the
Mm.
way that you see other girls and you're like, I want to be her and I want to be her and this is what I want to be about her. And it's like in reality, like girls who are, and obviously it goes beyond just like girls your age, which is I think the like sweet tame version of it, which is
Yeah.
like nice, and I think it's sweet that that's like out there because it's like nice just to like appreciate like other women and
Yeah.
like have that and like have people to look up to and stuff. And I think it's just a version of that, which is cool because sometimes I think about the internet and I'm like, oh, it's way more parasocial. And in a way it is because you don't actually know them. But it is interesting because it's just like a thing that's translating as bigger, I think. Like
Yeah,
bigger than it like the bigger version of what happens in person is what I mean.
totally.
But
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like it's definitely a lot more like there's so many other things rooted in it of like, like the fate of the algorithm and like micro trends and like all these things that are like I
mhm.
feel like it starts in high school where you're like, oh, like I could list first and last name of all like the older girls in high school that I was like, these girls are so sick. Like I want to be them so
Yeah.
bad. Like I still remember them, still follow some of them, and like, like it's yeah, now it's just like my landscape is so much wider.
Yeah. And that's what's like interesting about now because I feel like when I was younger and I would idolize the older girls in school, like the internet wasn't as much of a thing where I like was seeing all these other girls like on like Pinterest or whatever posting themselves and idolizing them. So I wonder like how that will affect just like that experience of like being
Yeah.
a kid and like now that that's like the whole world is just like opened up.
Yeah, totally.
You also want to ask, I'm curious just like because social media has kind of played a part in your music career. I'm curious what you think about just like that role that social media plays in starting people's careers in a lot of art fields and just like the struggle of social media turning every artist into also their own like digital marketer and like creative director and like the never ending like you have to like create this identity for yourself because I know that's something you kind of did maybe without meaning to or maybe just being like oh this is fun and then you're like oh well now I'm gonna market my music.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot, especially because recently I kind of had like a conversation with myself after this tour that we did over the summer, and I was like, okay, like I love school and I love like being like a school girl with my school friends and like my like campus crushes, but now it's time to be real and I want to be a superstar. So like I've been like
Aw.
I feel like I've been living this like double life and I'm like, okay, I graduate in a year and a half. Like I don't have the background to work a corporate job, so I'm gonna try to do this. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I want to, obviously. Finding like proper management, talking to labels and things like that, and everything is like been going well and that's great, but that's something that I've been thinking about is like there's so many artists doing things different ways. And as someone like I always say that like if there's one thing I would do besides make music, it's be able to like listen to music and cultivate music and like have a famous like radio show or something like that. Like I
Mhm.
love just like artist research and like putting people on to music. I've been taking in all this like media of like everyone who's like kind of popping off right now. And I think for a while it's kind of been this like social model of like, replicating this like transparency on social media of like, hey, like I'm an artist, like I've been going like recently, like I went through a breakup, he cheated on me, like this is the song I wrote. And it's like Mick Jagger would never sit down and be like, yeah, so basically like she was and like like there's things have changed. Like there's so much more opportunity to have this like level of transparency and like kind of make this like, in my opinion, kind of fabricated relationship with your audience.
Mhm.
Like maybe it is a relationship, but it's not, you're not like going out to lunch with like your fans. Like, but you're making it seem like you
Yeah.
would.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're making it seem like, and I've done that too. Like, not that it's like fake, but like people have been like, oh, gee, like blah 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 like this one girl for example was like oh my god I'm a big fan can I use your photos to like catfish this guy who like bullied my friend and I was like yes
Yeah. I mean
I was like
Yeah.
we're friends like yeah you can
Yeah.
like
that reminds me of like when people used to do that with Cindy. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Cindy
Cindy Wolfie
Kimberly?
Yeah, Cindy
yes
Kimberly used to
yes
let fans do
Yes.
that. And they were all
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god, she's so nice. We love
yeah
her. She's our
Yes.
friend."
Yes.
wait
But
literally and like that's the thing is like that's what I wanted
yeah.
Yeah.
So I
That's
feel
sweet though. That's
It,
awesome.
it is.
yeah,
And I mean, it's the least you can do. Like your pictures are out there, you know.
yeah,
But like
like literally.
I do think it is really interesting of like I forget what the exact like wording you said, but just like that like fabricating that relationship and how everything kind of in a way has become that because I recently was reading the book about like Spotify and how like a lot of it's just like very fabricated and like a lot of the tracks that like get on playlists like they're like I don't know. It's like a lot to explain, so I'm not gonna like go into
Yeah,
like the whole thing about it, but it's really interesting. Mood Machine
yeah.
by Liz Pelly, if anyone wants to read it.
But yeah, I'm so
It's
interested in that because I feel
it's
like
so cool.
I know like a brink of it that it's like, the algorithm is so like so crazy.
I like the way they make their playlist. They're making it to seem kind of like it's like this thing that it isn't a little bit like because like I don't know, you have to read about it because it's just like a lot to explain of just like how their playlists are just like fucked and not really actually what they say. Like they have like a chill playlist and it's basically all like stock music and it's just like to
Yeah.
make money off of. But like they make these playlists seem like they're this like genuine thing. Like I like worked for a little bit as an intern at a record label and like they had me like making like the Spotify icons, which is like crazy because it's like you're making a teenage girl make this major label like icon to make it seem like it's like human, you know?
Yeah.
And that is
Yeah.
kind of the thing I think that applies to then like on a smaller scale what you have to do to just like make art now is like kind of do something like that and like be like this is I don't know, just like make everything feel very real and genuine even though like we're all kind of emulating that now.
Totally. Like, and yeah, and that's back on like your first question of like, like, and one of the ways to do that is like by making this like using social media to make your life seem more transparent, to make you seem like a friend, to like cultivate these relationships. And I think like some of the only people who are not doing that right now, like I feel like for a while, like I would like go on my TikTok and I would be like, "Hey, I'm an artist from here." Like, "Hey, I just made the song of the summer." "Hey, I just," and
Mhm.
like at a certain point I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm actually gonna freaking throw up."
Yeah, and it's what you have to
Like,
do. It's like not
Yeah.
your like it's not like you're doing
yeah,
something like wrong because it's kind of just the thing that we've had to all assimilate into.
exactly. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, like that's just kind of like the terms of social media is it's like it comes off as if like you're showing like the truth of your life in little boxes, but it's like, no, you're not. Like I like aside from like the like renegade Addison Rae, like I don't know anything about her either. Like I just feel like she dances really awesome and like her music is like poppy and fun and it's like she's also kind of like adapting this new persona of like a like baby Madonna, Britney Spears, like and it's like I feel like people aren't doing that anymore. Like
Hmm.
people are kind of obsessed with like and me too. Like I love being like, "Oh my God, this happened in my life." Like I used to go live all the time on like my like friend's account just to like talk like about my life and answer questions and give advice.
I'm curious because you mentioned feeling tired out by like yourself, like going through that process of like putting stuff out and being like, I made the song in the summer. If you just have anything in mind that you hope becomes the norm or what like would feel better in
Yeah.
that sense because I know it's like kind of impossible because like we're in this state of like never ending marketing and self promotion.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many factors that I don't even know if I could like think of an ideal. Music is becoming more and more accessible every single
Mhm.
day, and especially through social media. And I feel like it's kind of the situation where we can't really go back from there unless like there's like a vast change in like people protesting social media. And I feel like people have
Mhm.
already started doing that and things like that.
Or just like a system falling apart too possibly
Yeah.
but yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I know that's like a
Yeah.
really like big question. So, and it's like
Yeah.
feels like a thing that feels really unsolvable. We talk about it a lot and like I feel like it's something I've been thinking a lot about a lot recently just because I was like reading all that like fucked information about Spotify. Even when you think something is more like, I don't know, like genuine, it turns out it's not. And I think
Yeah.
like the thing that like people often are grasping for in our current climate is the things that are truly like that. And like
Hmm.
always like there's this like search almost because I feel like it's something that I'm doing all the time of like searching for like real media that actually
Mhm.
feels like it resonates and stuff like that. Also, it's like not like the people like promoting and marketing and stuff like aren't that too. It's just like this
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know. It's a very complicated game.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. This point in your like career with music and with like making music and with promoting it and whatever, like what feels genuine to you right now and like how you go about it and like if yeah.
Yeah. That's a really awesome question because that's been like a big, like that's been like the forefront of like my fighting with making music and things like that.
Mm.
I have been working so close with like my dad's a drummer and he is like taught me everything I know about music and he's obviously not like a producer, but like we've sat and we've like produced some of my first couple songs together. And I've also had like relationships with other producers, and like had so many people like kind of, I don't know, trying to make a sound out of me that I feel like wasn't authentic to myself. And I feel like I'm still like trying to find this authentic, sense of self with my sound. And every time I've had a conversation about the production of my music or like, and I think like the like promotion comes after, but like so many of my friends have been like, "Oh, like this is so beautiful. This is so awesome." I'm thinking about like my best friend specifically, whose
Mm.
birthday it is today. She's always like
Ah.
she's like, "Yeah, like the song sounds so great, but like there's something about like you just sitting with your guitar and making a voice memo. Like that just feels so much more genuine and it feels so
Mhm.
much more beautiful." And like I'm like, "Wait, I feel that way too." Like so it's kind of like a game of like I'm kind of for a while I've been like kind of trying to orient myself and like with my team and like for a while I was like, "Oh, I only want to do all the work by myself. I'm going to produce all my stuff. I'm going to mix all my stuff by myself. Like I'm going to write all my stuff by myself." And like that's also limiting because there's so many awesome people out there and now I feel like I've found some really good like people who I feel like I you kind of just have it's like dating. It's literally like dating. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
finding a producer that like works well with you and like a team that works well with you. I'm actively trying to like continue that feeling, but I'm also not like gonna force anything. And but at the same time it's like I do want to do this forever and I kind of feel like I have to like play the game a little bit and like
Mhm.
still kind of figuring that stuff out too.
The idea of like not having to explain yourself and just like putting something out there and it's like letting it do the work for you of like this is
Yeah,
just something that feels genuine and authentic to me. And I also think like obviously like that like will change. Like what feels genuine to you right now is going to change like a lot over the course of even like the next year or next 10 years or whatever.
Mm.
totally. And I feel like I've been so lucky because all of the people that I've worked with have really like appreciated that like I love to be a creative person. I love to write all my own lyrics. I love to compose all my own songs. Like, I let people in on the production and I let people in on like other creative aspects. Like, I really like to have the reins when it comes to like music videos or like photos or like things like that. And just thinking about like the couple songs that I've been working on that we're gonna release soon. Like, I'm like so distracted because for the past like 2 weeks since we've decided we're done, I've just been thinking about like different scenes in the music video and like I've been so lucky because I feel like everyone's like, we really like how you do things creatively, like we wouldn't want to get in your way. Going back to the question of like an ideal world, like in like music and music promotion, I feel like that would be my ideal world where it's like you
Mhm.
can just feel someone being genuine. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can just feel what's going on. You don't have to like believe them.
Mhm.
You don't have to be like convinced. You can just like
Yeah. I think that's such a nice thing about like having an audience behind you that like kind of just likes you. Like just like the music promotion thing as a whole. I feel like what is so taxing about it is like getting to that point. So it's
Mhm.
really cool that you have gotten to that point and that you are able to just kind of like act from yourself.
Yeah.
I'm curious because you mentioned spirituality and like Buddhism earlier and like just like learning philosophy and like things about life. I'm curious if like all of that you feel like has like pushed you to want to make art.
Yeah. Totally. Like 100%. I feel like
Mm.
studying like studying philosophy and studying religion. I'm a theology minor.
Mm.
Um, has just advanced my lyricism so much. Like,
Mhm.
for instance, like Baby Blues, like the song that I released, it's all about kind of this idea of like growing out of and questioning like religious value and like growing up with like not knowing what's going on like when it comes to spirituality and things like that. And I feel like also like I was having a conversation the other day with my boyfriend and he was like, "Oh, like do you like write have you written like your songs about anyone?" And I'm like, "Wait, no, like not really."
Mhm.
And I think it's because I feel like there's like an underlining of just like philosophical thought that like align with my songs rather than
Mhm.
like sitting and trying to like encapsulate a situation that happened, even if there's like a metaphor of like a relationship. Like I feel like so many of my songs are just like so much more focused on like just like thoughts in my head that I don't know how to translate otherwise than through these lyrics and through these like little stories that I tell.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like there is like almost with like anything that you feel like is really good art, I think there's this common theme of it feeling like everyone's almost like translating this secret and there's like a
Yeah,
common secret and everyone's kind of translating it.
that's really beautiful. I've never like thought of it that way.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, that's
I
sweet.
was talking about this like yesterday because my friend was asking like my other friend for like book recommendations and the way he described like the books he liked were like in that way of like
Mhm.
I like books that are like almost like telling you like a secret that you like
Yeah.
is like a secret of like the universe and I really like that because I feel like that's also how I think but it's not like how I would describe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really sweet.
Mm.
Yeah, and I also think, yeah, that's like the beauty of art is like I'm reading against interpretation essay by Susan Sontag, and she's talking about how like like art isn't always like, oh, like do you see this, like it means this, like what
Mhm.
the artist is trying to say is this. It's like it is kind of this like little secret where it's like I don't really have to explain to anyone like what this song means to me because they're not even going to be able to explain what it means to them. Like it could mean something totally different, it could mean the same exact thing but for totally different lives and totally different experiences that'll never like be replicated. And I think like that's such a beautiful way of thinking about art and just like being like, oh my God, it can mean anything and nothing and it can mean everything. Like,
Mhm. That also whenever I'm like talking to someone specifically about music I'm like I know that like you can't even explain an ounce of where you're really coming from in this.
or do you ever feel like you like listen to a song and you're like, oh, I can't explain why this song is like my song. And like
Yeah.
it's just a song too, but like I can't even like explain like
I think we can like sense where it's coming from in a way. Like I
Mhm.
think that like we like when something goes out like you feel the energy that like was there when it was created. And I
Mhm.
think that that's the thing that we're not able to like touch or describe kind of.
Yeah.
And then that's just also another a way to describe it that isn't really a good way of describing it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's literally philosophy. Welcome to
Yeah.
philosophy major. Like explaining something by rephrasing it in a completely different way.
I feel like that's what we're doing about everything just all the
All the
time.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Totally. That's like that shit has actually made me go insane. Of just like I'm like, wait, like nothing has meaning, like no one will understand me ever. Like,
But also, I feel like we do all understand each other. I feel like we all have to understand each
yeah.
other in some way. Like even people who are like, I don't like act like they don't understand you, they actually do.
Yeah.
It's just
Uh,
something about them.
Yeah, exactly. I think I agree. And I also think like just back on like the topic of art, like that's also the beauty of art is like I do think we can all understand each other, but I think that like maybe the reasons we all understand each other might not even be like the ways we communicate and the ways we like show emotion or like
Mm.
affection or affliction or things like that. Like it might be through this like more like transcendental, like metaphysical realm of like, like I could write a song and someone could be like, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
Like me like explaining like, "Oh, like I had a really hard day." Like that's not gonna encapsulate the like same exact thing that I'm feeling. Like ugh, this sounds so like yoga mom, but like the energy, you know? Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
it's
No,
really
I
interesting.
Yeah, no, I feel like I've had that experience too of even just like talking, especially I feel like to like men who in music when they like have a song and the song is so beautiful and it's like so good and I'm like, "Oh my God." But then you like talk to them afterward and it's like talking to a wall. And
Yeah.
it's like maybe it's just like having a positive outlook on stuff, but I'm like, "Okay, this is like they're choosing to express or like the way that they express themselves is through this art form and not necessarily like in this conversation."
Which
Totally.
that's also kind of very interesting, specifically looking at it with men, because like they do just have a really hard time. Like they haven't really been taught, like socialized how to communicate in like positive, productive ways. And it's interesting then that like for men, there's this creative outlet of like not saying, but
Yeah.
doing, and
Like
Yeah.
like it just like being that. And then when they try to talk about it, it's like, did you write this?
yeah.
Yeah, literally. That's what it feels like
It
Yeah.
reminds
sometimes.
me of it reminds me of that meme that's like this guy's like the guy's texting and he's like, "What more do you want from me? Like I quit smoking, I stopped cheating on you, like what more?"
Whole concept is like very interesting too, because I feel like as we were talking, I was just thinking about like the process of writing something, and like I feel like I don't even have a complete thought about it actually, but I don't
Like
know. I
doing
think
it
it's
with a man.
what what were you gonna say?
Like doing it with a man.
Not really. It was just like I don't know. I think like just like the process of like showing someone something and like knowing that they'll get it, but like you guys can't like even talk about, like you can try to, and I think that that's like what we're here doing is like us just trying over and over to like connect on something and like come to the shared understanding of something, and
Totally.
like under like somehow do that with words that are really really limited.
Totally. Like, and that's like, oh my God, the amount of times that I feel like, because right now I'm like kind of going through like this like cat and mouse game of like working with new producers. And like for a while, like I worked with like this really awesome producer, but I was getting so angry and so sad because I'm like, he doesn't get it. Like, he does not get what I'm saying. Like he's ruining the songs. Like,
Mhm.
these songs sound terrible. And it's like then looking back, I'm like the songs I'm talking about are like Baby Blues and Mr. Mystery. Like they're great songs. They're doing so
Yeah.
well. Like
Mm.
and like they're produced beautifully and like they're amazing. But it's like I would get so upset because I'm like, wait, like what I'm saying isn't translating and like I also don't have much of a background in like music like verbal communication. Like I can't be like,
Mhm.
oh, like make sure it like does the crescendo here. Like I don't know what that
Mhm.
it's like
Yeah,
I
like you
don't
don't have
even
the
know.
language.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like in band practice, my bandmates will be like, oh, is that like a G major? And I'm like, oh what? Like what the like,
That's
I love that.
I love that.
Normalize people not knowing like chords and like
oh
No,
words, like
that
totally.
reminds me
because
of
it's
like
fine. You can still make beautiful things.
Yeah.
yeah. That reminds me of like an interview that like Halsey did like years ago back when she was
Okay.
like like back in like 2012 or something on the Zach Sang show, Brittany. Zach Sang
Mm.
show. Production team is like really awesome and she's like because I'll like say something and they'll just like get what I mean, like, and I won't use like music language, but she'll be like, yeah, I want this part to sound like sparkly, and I want this
Mhm.
part to sound like something else, and just
Literally
like,
me.
yeah. And I was like, that's really sweet, like when you meet someone who gets it, and yeah, you have that.
Oh,
Mhm.
totally. Like this producer that I've been working with recently, like we got into the session and I was like, "Oh, like I feel like I want this song to like have this type of vibe." And like automatically like it starts sounding really good. This is like my song that I'm releasing soon called The Clown Song,
Oh, that's so
Ooh,
which I
exciting.
worked on with someone named Hudson Pollock.
Okay, we'll be
ooh.
tuning
Doug.
in for that.
And
Nice. Is
yeah,
there a
and
date that it comes out?
not yet,
Okay.
but
Okay.
hopefully soon. Like probably in like the next month or so.
Okay.
Slay.
Yay. But yeah,
Yay.
like
Keep
we
your
like
freaking
got
eyes out.
yes.
Sorry.
We got into the session and I was like, "Oh, like I feel like I want this like part to give off like this vibe like from this song." And they knew exactly what I was talking about. Like
Mhm.
they literally were like, "Okay, done." And I'm like, you who let you
Yeah.
in here?"
Good way to do that is just like through friends, and then or through people who like make things you respect is like
Totally.
such a
And
good rule of thumb.
yeah, and also like my managers, like one of them I just met, but one of them is like I have co-managers. One of them is like one of my great friends who like knows me and like knows what I want. And so I was like, oh, like I feel like I want this song to be like more this vibe. And my manager was like, oh, work with Hudson. And I was like, oh, that's so awesome.
As a final question, what do you feel like is important to your life right now outside of music?
That's a big question.
It can be anything at all.
I don't know, because
It
I
could be
feel
your
like,
boyfriend.
girl, I'll never let a man be number one priority.
Yes.
True, true.
I love him. He's so awesome. He really has like helped me with this stuff because Sam is also in music, but he's on like a totally different spectrum of music. Like he makes electronic music and
Mm.
like my boyfriend's a DJ. He's been so like we started dating this summer, but we've been like friends and like seeing each other for the longest time. And he was like, you just gotta do it. Like, you're talented. Like, do it. Like,
Aw.
like, oh my God. And he never like tried to go to college because he was like, this is my passion. This is my dream. Like, I'm not gonna let that go. And like, he's been so influential of just like, because my biggest thing is I keep telling myself I can't do it. Like, I'm like, it's so much easier to like follow the rules and like play these little games. Like it's so much easier to not worry about the risk factor and like
Mhm.
Yeah.
just be comfortable inside these walls. And like I feel like that's the only reason that I like haven't had great success because I feel so confident about my songs and about my writing simply because I think that I have something to say that other people need to hear, like
Mhm.
or want to hear. Like I'm not just trying to make songs to like make money. Like
Mhm.
I
It's
love
hard
my
when that's like an aspect of it, I feel like. I think that that
totally.
like is what freaks people out because then it's like, well, now I have pressure on this.
Totally,
Yeah.
yeah. Like for the longest time I didn't even want to like pursue a career in music simply because I wanted to keep it as just a passion of mine and like
Mm.
kind of like talking to him and getting to know more about his life since we've been obviously getting closer I understand that you don't have to get rid of that side of passion to make this the forefront of your life and like so that's just really important to me right now is this like balance of like like because I know that if I didn't pursue music, if I didn't have that conversation with myself to pursue music, that I would be kicking myself in the face like for the next like until I die and
Mhm.
Yeah.
have to like give it a shot. And
You said that you like keep just like doubting yourself and you feel like that's the thing or like what I forget what the words you used, but I feel like that for every time that like you do that, it's like so normal, but it's like also know that then you can like do the opposite. You can do like literally anything. Like people are capable of literally anything that they set their minds to.
totally. And
True.
it's like I think obviously like this comes with so much privilege, but like I'm gonna be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like and I have a lot of like privilege by saying that. Like
Yeah.
I can I can risk things for a while and I know that I have a good support system. I feel like I'm really finally just like listening to myself and not following these like little micro trends and being like, wait, like this is my creativity. This is my vision. This is my music. Like this is not overproduced. Like this is great. And then I'm like, oh my God, what if it doesn't work out? Like what if I spent all this time being so authentic and it's
Mm,
just shit? Because I have had people who are very close and dear to me, whose opinions I love, telling me like, that's not really what does best on your Spotify. Like,
Mm.
that's not really like what does best on your Instagram.
I feel like that's always like the first counter thing to something that's really good and like
Yeah,
challenges people though.
Yeah.
So just
totally.
yeah.
I feel like that means you're doing something right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just being like, wait, like I'm gonna be okay. And
Yeah.
like even if I didn't have my crazy support systems, like I feel like we put so much pressure, especially going back to the original question with social media, seeing these people with established lives and like
Mm-hmm.
something big about influencers is you feel a sense of security in their life. Like because everyone's promoting not promoting, but you see their lit ass apartments like in New York or LA. Like, you're like, holy shit, their life is secure. Like, oh my God, my life is not secure. Like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and I feel like I like just being like, even if I don't have these securities, like, even if I'm really down on my luck and I have to figure it out, like, life is so much more than these like I don't know, material things that you like can prove by posting a little photo or like by
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
having a song that does well on a playlist for 2 weeks. Like you'll be okay. That's like
Yeah.
Mhm.
my biggest mindset right now.
Yeah.
Mm.
No, and also you're so young, like your life doesn't need to be stable yet.
That's
I'm just a
true.
Like,
baby. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, thanks so much for talking to us. And it was super
Yeah.
sweet. And we
Thank
loved
you for
hearing all
coming
of your
on.
thoughts.
of
Yeah.
course. Wait, you guys are awesome, and I'm like, we should just like hang out and talk. Like,
Hey, we could.
Wait,
I
I would love to.
We're
Wait,
in
are you-
Philly, so and Samira's moving to New York. So
I
oh,
am.
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in
Yes.
DC, but I'm gonna be in Philly in April.
Oh my god.
Oh my
Wait,
God,
are you doing a
hey.
show or something or
I'm playing like an alumni concert for Georgetown.
Oh,
Wait,
okay.
that's
But
that's awesome.
it'll be fun. So either you guys should pop out or we should do something, or I'll see
Yeah, that'd be so fun.
Yeah.
Wait, when is the show? Where is it?
It's like April 4th. I don't know the exact
Oh,
date.
that's my birthday.
That's her birthday.
That's crazy.
Oh my
Hey,
God.
maybe
Why
you
do I
can
feel like
come
it's
to
April
like
4th?
whatever birthday celebration we do, because I don't know
Great.
what we'll be doing, but like we'll probably be doing something.
I'll be
We'll be
Oh
doing
Oh my
something.
God, that'd be so
Yeah.
fun.
Yes. it's
Yeah, I have
really
a lot of friends
close.
who are in DC. I've been wanting to like go
Awesome.
visit
I've been
there.
wanting
We'll
to go
text me
to.
if you're here.
Hey,
guys.
we will.
We
Stay in my
will.
dorm.
Oh my god.
Oh my God.
Your dorm
In the
is cute.
Georgetown dorms.
Oh,
The
Dude, because I
Georgetown-
remember in like what is the there's like a movie 17 again where she's like, I want to go to Georgetown. You know what I'm
no,
talking
girl,
about?
don't.
Don't. I
So fun. Well, I need to lock in for 10 minutes
Yeah,
before.
no, I was gonna say I feel
We
bad
have
keeping you, but we have
one
one
thing.
last thing.
Yeah.
I can
Really
send it in the
quick.
chat.
Yeah, okay. We do a thing. We have all of our guests say a thing.
Okay.
If you could just read this out loud, we're trying to get Josh Ovalle on the podcast. Thank you.
Wait, I, Lucia Zambetti, hereby request Josh Ovalle for collaboration with the Internet is Dead podcast. Please, Josh, be a guest on the podcast. We miss you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good luck on your midterm.
Wait, yeah.